This is the Palin Update on Sarah Net Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
You have the same still spine and the moral courage of Washington and Lincoln and Martin Luther King. It is in you. It will sustain you as it sustained them.
We are honored today to be joined by someone who really has had an amazing life story and an accomplished career of standing up for what's right. She just so happens to also be the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Minister, conservative, pro-life activist, and author Dr. Alveda King is here. A new poll released this past week shows us just where Sarah Palin stands with Republicans. Where's the party? The governor questions Obama on the second anniversary of the very unpopular Obamacare. Plus, Bristol's blogging and a very special tribute to World Down Syndrome Day. Now, our very special guest. Dr. Alveda King, Pastoral Associate and Director of African American Outreach for Priests for Life and founder of King for America. Dr. King, it is an honor to have you here on the Palin Update on Sarah Net Radio.
Well, thank you for having me join you as well.
There's so much we could talk about with you. I do have to ask you about your uncle, though. To have someone like you here who knew Martin Luther King is just incredible. And, of course, we all know the great things he did, but what about the man himself? What was he like away from the rallies and media coverage? Do you have some special personal memories of your uncle?
Well, when people ask me about my relationship with the famous Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., of course, as his niece, and he and my dad are brothers, and I like to call them the sons of thunder who live in heaven, because my father, Reverend A.D. King, and my uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., we called him Uncle M.L. Now, I remember him certainly as the freedom fighter and the leader of the movement. I actually marched and went to jail during the 20th century myself, and I got married 1 year after Dr. King was killed. So I got to know him very well. But I knew him also as Uncle M.L., and we had family dinners together, and a very close family. And he had the most beautiful laughter. His voice was just wonderful to hear him laugh. And my favorite speeches that he made were not the famous speeches, but his sermons. So I remember him preaching, and I remember him loving to eat fried chicken and my mother's sweet potato pie that she would make for family gatherings.
You know, we talk so often about your uncle, but on your website there's a man you honor and call your inspiration, and you beat me to the punch. You mentioned him already. Your dad, A.D. Williams King, MLK's brother. How did he inspire you?
Well, actually, my dad was my hero, and you know, very close. And growing up, having a dad like that, and I remember when our home was bombed in Birmingham, Alabama, in 1963. And I remember he got us all out of the house safely. None of us were hurt. And the people were ready to riot. They were just so upset. And I remember him standing before that crowd and saying, "No, no, my family and I are fine. Please return to your homes. If you have to hit somebody, hit me. But I'd rather you not fight. Please just go home. We're safe." And he had already rescued all of us out of the house, and he was still speaking to calm that crowd. And he was just a hero to me in many, many ways.
What's your take on race relations in this country today, especially when it comes to politics and coverage of politics? A lot of race baiters out there.
Well, I'm very disturbed about the race relations now, and I was talking to my cousin, Reverend Bernice King. She's the youngest child of Martin and Coretta King, and we were talking today. There was a young man, Trayvon, a teenager down in Florida, and I'm sure you know about that story as well. And her concern was, she said, you know, with racial tensions really being pretty high now, we're going to have to encourage the people to behave nonviolently in any reactions. But it was interesting that you'd asked the race baiting question, because there's only one race, the human race. We have different ethnic groups. And because we tend to cling to the separate races, then you find a lot of racial tension. And so I would encourage people to remember that there's a human race with different ethnic groups. And if we can begin to really understand that, then we may be able to resolve some of these problems that we're having.
That's a wonderful point. You know, we've had a lot of pro-life guests on this show. Sarah Palin is obviously a pro-life champion, talking the talk and walking the walk, a hero for life. You are also a
Yes.
champion for the unborn, a fighter, but you came to your defense of life in a much different way than Governor Palin. Can you talk about that journey?
Yes, I can. You know, and I met Governor Palin at Glenn Beck's rally, Restoring Honor, a couple of years ago, and he's going to do Restoring Love this summer. But when I met her and I heard her remarks and followed everything that she stands for, family and life and all of that, of course, my testimony as a post-abortive woman is different. That means I had actual abortions. I had secret abortions that I tried to hide from God, and I did hide from my family for a long time. And only after I repented of those abortions and found great courage in the Lord was I able to become a pro-life voice as well. And so now here in the 21st century, my voice is raised on behalf of the preborn babies, the sick, the elderly. Euthanasia is wrong, abortion is wrong, and most recently, even the debate about the HHS mandate requiring that employers or now insurance companies provide birth control methods for employees. I think that with my voice now raised there as one who was negatively impacted even by artificial birth control when I was a younger woman. So I have much to say for life in this century, and I'm just happy to be one who can be used to proclaim the truth about life.
What about your uncle and abortion? Some controversy there, specifically this recent flap in Utah over license plates. Was Martin Luther King pro-life?
Martin Luther King Jr. was very pro-life, as was my father, Reverend A.B. King, my grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. I think some people become confused because Planned Parenthood likes to claim that Martin Luther King Jr. was on their side, and he even accepted an award from them in 1966. That's not even true. He was offered the Planned Parenthood Maggie Award, but he did not attend the ceremony. He did not write the speech. His wife, who was pro-choice, attended that ceremony and read a speech that someone else wrote. But if you recall, and some people say, oh, well, if she went for him. It's the same thing. But, you know, President George W. Bush is pro-life. And in her book, Mrs. Laura Bush wrote that she's pro-choice. And so you can have a husband and wife with differing viewpoints. And that's actually what you had with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, don't be like the Romans who committed infanticide to their peril. He said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He said the Negro cannot win if he's willing to sacrifice the futures of his children for immediate personal comfort and safety. And so he was pro-life just like his dad, my grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., kept me from being aborted in 1950 when my mother wanted an abortion. And when he found out in the mid-1970s that I was about to abort yet another child, he said, oh, no, they're lying to you. That's not a lump of flesh. That's my great-grandchild. Absolutely not. So I grew up in a family that has been pro-life. And once I repented of my secret, my tragic secret, and got back on track, I became a pro-life voice as well.
When you spoke at the Restoring Honor rally that you mentioned a couple of years ago in D.C., Sarah Palin also addressed the huge crowd. How was that? What did you think of the governor?
I just like her. I think she's very delightful and very solid and sound thinking, and it's just a joy to know her.
Now, speaking of rallies, you're involved in an awesome, unique one right now, a women's 21-day, 250-mile walk calling America Back to Life. Who's involved in this, Dr. King, and where will this event finish up?
Well, the event started off in Houston, Texas, and it ends up in Dallas. And I was there at the kickoff, and it was such a wonderful, the young lady who convened it, Laura, and 39 women who are walking for life and proclaiming the truth about life. Many have been impacted by abortion. Some are abortion survivors. Some are post-abortive women. Some are like Laura, but that's just a passion for life. And she and her precious husband, who, of course, with his wife walking, for those days, 21 days, has been very strong in the support as well. I think that as it culminates on April the 6th, that's Good Friday, and it launches right into the Esther Call with Lou Engle, and of the call, a powerful prayer ministry that goes across the country. And as it culminates, those brave voices of those women, I can only just speak highly of them and encourage them and thank God for them.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier. It's wonderful that you're also getting the word out there to folks about the pro-life cause. Everybody talks about abortion, but you also are getting the euthanasia discussion out there as well.
Well, actually, that's true, and I say it in a joking way, but not really. I'm 61 years old, and I would always have said that it's wrong to kill elderly people because you feel as though they're no longer useless. But every year I become more and more convinced.
Everybody say, I think that's universal, right?
Absolutely.
What do you think your uncle would make of Sarah Palin? He certainly drew huge crowds, broke a lot of barriers. The governor can relate to that in a way. Could you imagine them on a stage together?
Well, my uncle had a dream that Protestants and Catholics and Gentiles and Jews would join together and sing Free at Last. And I'd like to think that if he met Governor Palin, he'd be happy to add her to that chorus.
No, that's a wonderful sentiment. And Dr. King, this has really been a pleasure. How can our listeners find out more about your big walk and what else you're up to? Your website?
Yes, at the website, www.priest, and that's plural, PRIESTSFORLIFE.org/African American.
Wonderful. Dr. Alveda King, Pastoral Associate and Director of African American Outreach for Priests for Life and founder of King for America, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. God bless you, and thanks again.
God bless you, too. Thank you.
And also check out kingforamerica.com. We've seen virtually all of the GOP presidential hopefuls reach the top of the polls at some point during this long primary process, with Romney, Santorum, and Gingrich all spending time as the frontrunner. Even former candidates Kaine, Bachmann, and Perry enjoyed the catbird seat for a time. But a new poll suggests someone else is more popular than those still seeking the Republican nod. Sarah Palin. The latest poll of nationwide voters by Public Polling Policy shows Governor Palin is more well-liked by voters than any of the four remaining Republican candidates, and it's not even close. 68% of the voters view Palin favorably compared to just 20% that view her unfavorably. Romney is viewed favorably by only 54%, while 35% view him unfavorably. 2 years ago, Barack Obama called Obamacare his greatest accomplishment. Joe Biden, well, used more colorful language. Now, Governor Palin is wondering, where's the party? Palin is asking the president why he's conspicuously absent from the 2-year anniversary of Obamacare. She says concerned citizens around the country recognize the 2-year anniversary of Obamacare by protesting its attack on religious liberty. She goes on to quip oral arguments on Obamacare start this week before the Supreme Court, and voting out Obama starts November 6th. Bristol Palin is taking the blogosphere by storm. She has a new blog at Pathos. Her recent post asks Barack Obama when she can expect his phone call. After all, Obama called Sandra Fluck after Rush Limbaugh called her a name, and Bristol's wondering if she'll be next. Bristol figured she might be next, since Bill Maher has said hideous things about not only Bristol and the governor, but even Bristol's little brother. Here's a great line from Bristol's piece. She says, "I'm not even really expecting a call, but would it be too much to expect a little consistency? After all, you're president of all Americans, not just the liberals." Great stuff from Bristol Palin. Check her out at pathos.com. And in honor of World Down Syndrome Day this past week, Governor Palin posted a great video on her Facebook page from the International Down Syndrome Coalition for Life. Jedediah Bila brought it to Palin's attention, and she then shared it with us. You can find the link on the governor's Facebook page and also right on our Facebook page, SarahNet Radio. Definitely worth the watch. October Baby opened this past week. The touching and powerful pro-life film is a must-see. Our friends at Team Sarah did a super job promoting the important movie, and we had the pleasure of speaking with Shari Rigby, one of the film's stars, right here earlier this month. We wish the cast and crew of October Baby continued success. And speaking of important movies, don't forget, Monumental hits the big screen this week. Go to monumentalmovie.com for more. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also, follow us on Twitter at SarahNet Radio, and we're now on Facebook, so please like SarahNet Radio on Facebook. And if you want to stick it to the left, pick up one of our new SarahNet Radio bumper stickers. Just email us, send your name and address, and we will send you one of our great-looking new stickers for free. Just go to SarahNetRadio.net and click just under the sticker icon. I want to thank everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Dr. Alveda King. And thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.